Welcome. Thank you. Welcome to Pasadena Area Community College. This is business meeting. This is meeting number 7.
Oh, there it is.
Mr. Buckenham, may we please have a roll call?
Absolutely. Trustee Chen Lau,
Here.
Trustee Osterling,
Here, and
Trustee
apparently overdressed too.
Here.
Trustee Silver,
Here.
Trustee Watt,
Here.
Trustee Martin,
I'm here and you're only overdressed from the waist up, Jim.
Trustee Fellow,
Here.
Oh my goodness, what was that about?
You want to know how I know that? You want to know how I figured that
I don't
out?
want to know,
Secret
Jeff.
Zoom setting.
Wow,
Secret Zoom setting. I fixed my thing though, Alex, so.
okay,
TMI
right.
is on.
all present and accounted for, man.
thank you.
All right.
Do we have any comments on closed session?
No such comment.
Okay, so let me tell you what we will be addressing in our closed session. Let's see. Item number 1 would be Government Code 54957, Public Employee Appointment, Instructors, Chemistry, 2, Executive Director, Student Equity and Success. Item number 2, Government Code 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators. Agency Designated Representative Robert S. Belinsky, Assistant Superintendent, Vice President of Human Resources. Item number 3, Government Code 54957, Evaluation of Superintendent President. At this time, we will recess the closed session. Who is here? I see one, I see two, I see three. Nobody else?
I think you're all set.
Am I? I
I
can't
think
see.
you're all set.
Okay, thank you.
7 trustees of Berlinda.
Thank you. You know, I just can't see everybody. This is very hard. Okay. Okay, so we reconvene to our from closed session. We had nothing to report at this from closed session. So I would like at this time to ask for the roll call. Mr. Buckingham.
Thank you. I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that this board meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, as amended by Governor Gavin Newsom in Executive Order N 2920, dated March 17th, 2020, in that all trustees are participating by remote video or teleconference. As I call the roll, I would now like to request that each trustee in turn respond to the following questions. I will start with Trustee Chen Lao. Trustee Chen Lao, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Were you able to hear our proceedings up until now?
Yes.
You have a copy of the agenda for this meeting.
Yes.
Next, I would like to request that Trustee Osterling respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to request that Trustee Brown respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to request that Trustee Silver respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to request that Trustee Wah respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to request that Trustee Martin respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to request that Trustee Fellow respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Finally, I'd like to request that Student Trustee Gomez respond to the same questions.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Thank you. I would now like to ask that any member of the Board of Trustees speak up at this time if they have not been able to clearly hear any trustee. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that all trustees present have indicated that they were able to hear all other trustees clearly. I would next request that any trustee speak up at this time if such trustee has any reason to believe, based on voice recognition or otherwise, that any person representing themselves to be a certain trustee is not truly so. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no trustee has expressed doubt that any trustees are the parties participating by teleconference. I would now like to advise the trustees and the public that any votes taken during the remote conference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go to item 3, land acknowledgement. And I would like to ask for our student trustee to do this today.
Thank you very much, President Brown. So, Pasadena City College is a learning community within the indigenous homelands of people who have been known as the Gabrieleño, Band of Mission Indians of the Xishiquanga village and Quiche Nation. Tonight, we acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal of the land on which we gather. Let us take a moment of silence in honor of the important contributions of the stewards of the land who came before us. PCC and its faculty, staff, and students recognize that we are all simultaneously teachers, learners, and guests on these lands. This land acknowledgement is a small part of an ongoing process of working to be in good relationship with the people of the land and embodying equity in our practices and policies. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, trustee. Now I'd like for us to have, if Trustee Silver, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, sure. There we are. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Trustee Silver. Okay. Item number 5, approval of reordering of agenda items. Is there a motion to approve or reordering any agenda items?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Trustee Chen Lao,
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Wah,
aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Fellow,
Aye.
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is introduction and recognition. Do we have any?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
The first is from Carol Calandra. She's a counselor in the Veterans Resource Center, and she sends her regrets. She is teaching at Cal State LA tonight. It reads, as we prepare to pause in remembrance of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I would like to thank the board, our entire campus and community for your support and dedication of our Veterans Resource Center, our student veterans, and most importantly, our PCC family of veterans and their dependents. Many of our own PCC family have served or have family members that have served right alongside of, for they are our sons, daughters, husbands, wives, nieces, nephews, mothers, fathers, and friends. The terrorist attacks of 9/11 changed our world as we know it. We all remember that morning when time stood still and we watched as an atrocity was inflicted on our country as the terror attacks were carried out on live television for the world to see. For many of us, these visions are forever ingrained. Each person who has served in the armed forces since that fateful day has done so voluntarily, far too many of whom have made the ultimate sacrifice by dedicating their lives, many of them young with their own dreams. However, the call to defend our nation and our freedoms was so strong that they volunteered and gave their last breath for all of us. To those who made that sacrifice, may we never forget your sacrifice. We are endlessly grateful to you for your service. We as a nation hopefully can repay you by serving in another manner in your honor. Only 1% of the entire United States population has worn the cloth of our armed forces, and we are humbled, knowing and deeply indebted that you swore an oath to protect all of us. We are eternally grateful for those who answered the call to protect and serve in our nation's military. We must also pause and recognize the brave first responders that rushed to the aid of others, as those were incredibly heroic actions. They too lost many within their ranks and forged a nation that gathered around a new sense of belonging to each other. So many things changed that day. So many things. I speak with immense pride when I say that PCC answered the call to support our returning student veterans. I am so incredibly grateful to the administration and our PCC family. It is your trust and vision that allows me to humbly serve as a shepherd to this extremely dedicated and selfless community, contributing to the growth of our veteran services and meeting the ever-changing needs of our student veterans. Our Veterans Resource Center is the best in our state and one of the best in the country, none of which would be possible without your support. I would also like to emphasize the ending statement on almost every email that leaves my email box as a reminder. And it states, the American flag does not fly because wind moved past it. The American flag flies because of the last breath of every military member who died defending it. Thus, I invite you to join us tomorrow, Thursday, September 9th at noon at the flagpole in front of the mirror pools as we gather as a PCC family led by Dr. Andrew Jonas in our remembrance ceremony. Please stop and take a moment this Saturday, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, to pause, reflect, remember, and honor those we have lost, those that have served, and those who continue to serve. Thank you for your time, and more importantly, your collective and unwavering support. Kindly, Carol Calandra. The next public comment is from a student named Erica Nieblas. Hello, my name is Erica Nieblas, and I'm a returning student here at PCC. The current pandemic has shifted our reality drastically. I imagine how confusing it must be for an institution to navigate through decisions that will affect current and future students. In regards to school, I felt it was best for me to take the 2020-2021 school year off. Coming back this year, I understood there would be some changes to campus life. What I did not expect was 2 of the 3 in-person classes I enrolled in to be converted to an online format about 3 days before school started. It felt like such a short notice. The only explanation I was offered by my professors was because of the Delta variant. Most students wanted it to be this way. In my head, I thought, okay, fair enough, I guess. Though I gave it some more thought and asked some peers how they felt about their classes being converted to an online format. Many were disappointed because this was not what they had signed up for, and I have to agree. I'm fortunate enough to have received the BOG waiver, but for those who pay out of pocket for their classes, it seems unfair. For a moment, I put my disappointment aside and decided to give my now 2 online classes a chance. Then I was informed that both of these classes are using an asynchronous format. I had to look up what that meant. Alas, it meant there were no weekly Zoom meetings that would substitute in-class time. This made me uneasy because I was unsure how discussions would be held. I enrolled in one of these classes to engage in dialogue with a community who shared a similar interest in learning about Mexican American history. Some might say that this can be done online too. Well, I can only agree to an extent. these asynchronous formats become stagnant. Discussions feel forced, and there is an element of authenticity that is missing. Those who enrolled in this class expected it to be in person and might have also been longing for that face-to-face interaction like I did. After 2 weeks, I decided to drop this class. I initially felt guilt, which was odd because I had no control over the situation. I understand because of COVID, spontaneous decisions are made to follow safety protocols, but it seems like students not wanting to be on campus is being used as an excuse now. I wish there had been a greater effort to meet students halfway, perhaps offering an in-person meeting at least once a week and recording that lecture for those who feel uncomfortable attending in person, or even synchronous classes at the very least. If this experience has taught me anything, it is that I, someone who plans to become a future educator, will do my best to offer my students a fruitful learning experience, whether it be in person or online. I only hope PCC can be more transparent moving forward, because I foresee many students expressing disappointment at the bare minimum that's being done to emulate in-person classes. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to item number 8, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
Thank you. Item number 9, board committees reporting out. Do we have any committees reporting out today? No?
Yeah, yes, we do. Trustee Martin.
I'm sorry, I'm slow. I'm trying to raise my hand and unclick my mute button simultaneously. After I learn to walk and chew gum, I'm going to work on it. A budget and audit did meet, and no use me talking about it now because you'll get the similar report in great detail later on agenda, but we did recommend that the budget, the tentative budget you're about to, we're going to discuss later tonight.
Thank you. Any other committees? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item number 10, update and DEI initiatives.
Dr. Carrie Bolin has an update to offer, brief.
Yes, very, very brief. I just want to at least, take a moment to recognize Susie Ling. I had shared in previous spaces that we had an opportunity to have her serve as our ethnic studies coordinator, and part of her role was going to be identifying some PCC courses that could be considered under Area F, and in doing so, cross-list those as ethnic studies and bring them up to snuff. And she's done just that, 14 courses that she's gone ahead and sort of reimagine alongside her faculty to meet the criteria for the state. And so there, as we speak, sitting in CNI for approval before they go off to the state. But I just wanted to thank her for her hard work in such a short amount of time. She'll then kind of pivot a bit to doing some more of that research around, as we're thinking about adopting an ethnic studies program, what courses are missing, what types of pieces, as it relates to curriculum pedagogy and so forth, resources do we need to take into consideration. The last piece, just as an update, September 24th, the President's Leadership Council on Equity, Diversity, and Justice will be meeting. This 2.0 invitation to the community was well received. We had about 72 individuals that identified an interest through our survey to participate and contribute to the conversation. So we're obviously going to have to drill that down a bit. The idea is that committee, or that council rather, will represent up to max of 20 individuals, and will really, sort of set the agenda, set the DEI agenda for the college, informed by my recommendations, our educational master plan, our student equity plan, and so forth. So look forward to letting you all know how that first space goes. That's it.
That sounds exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 11, redistricting partner.
I have a DEI report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you. Where were you? Sorry about
Well,
that.
I raised my hand, but then I didn't want to interfere with what Carrie was saying, but I do have a question or a request for Carrie. So thank you, Dr. Bolin, for your report out. So as you know, one of the things that we are hoping to do across the state is also engage all districts to bring all stakeholders to the table, not just faculty and staff, the community, as well as the trustees. And so, as you know, all of our trustees did raise their hand and say that they would be involved. And as we start to release some things, I hope at some point we will see a schedule of when those stakeholders will be brought to the table. So then my report out, though, is on DEI, is just to remind everyone that September 23rd, so in 2 weeks, we will also be having a town hall. I know Trustee Osterling asked for a flyer. I just got it today. Mary will be sending it out to everyone, but I want to urge not only all our trustees, and of course, I know our CEO is very DEI, one of our DEI champions, but then any of our stakeholders from our district to also attend. The theme will be from moving from equity talk to equity walk. So really drilling down on actions that all districts can take and some of the barriers that they face and how do you address those barriers. We'll be featuring Los Rios College, who wrote DEI into the MOUs for the faculty and got their agreement on that, which we think is really great, and want to applaud Los Rios. We'll also be featuring Orange Coast. And then some of you may remember that the trustees, we had a survey that went out last year. RP Group has just started to put all of that together. We've just seen a summary, but the CCCT president, Trustee Ken Brown from El Camino, will be just going over some of the highlights of that. We have not received the entire report back from RP Group, but we'll kind of go over what the data that we have. And then I also want to thank Dr. Indrajanis and her colleagues, Dr. Garcia, as well as Dr. Tomanang, for the CEOs and their work in partnering with the trustees on DEI. So we had our first meeting of that group. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? I see no more hands. All right, now we can go to item 11, redistricting.
Okay, I will have Crystal Colross.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited tonight to introduce the board to Chris Chafee, who is the Chief Operating Officer for Redistricting Partners. Chris, I see you're here. You want to come on camera?
Oh, there we go, getting there.
It says that you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Alex.
Oh. Sorry. Thank you. I was trying to, but it wasn't letting me.
Chris, did you want to introduce the other folks with you tonight?
Sure, I'd love to introduce Kimmy Shigatani. She's on as well. She's our Chief Administrative Officer, and Kay Montplaisir. She's our Redistricting Manager for Pasadena CCD. And I don't know if you want to give me control and I can run the PowerPoint, or
it can go either way, sir, whichever you prefer.
That would be awesome.
You can take it.
Thank you. Okay. So again, thank you for having us tonight. We're excited to kick off this redistricting process. Just a little bit about us. Again, my name is Chris Chafee. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Redistricting Partners. We're a firm that started in 2011, and we've been operating for the last decade. We're conducting this redistricting process under a master agreement with the Foundation for Community Colleges. And we're in this process with a number of your fellow community college districts up and down the state. We also have a similar partnership with the California School Boards Association. So to get us started, what is redistricting? Redistricting is adjusting district lines every 10 years based on the US Census. The well-known examples, of course, are Congress, the Assembly, and the Senate plans that the California Redistricting Commission is doing right now. But this also affects all agencies that have district lines, like Pasadena CCD. Now, to conduct this redistricting process, we follow a set of traditional redistricting principles. The number one principle is relatively equal size. People, not citizens. Now, the reason we balance for population is that we want to make sure that each district has fair representation of the residents. And we do but we also look at full people, not citizens or voters. It's all residents of the agency that we balance for. The other thing about equal population is that we're given the opportunity to have a 10% total deviation between the largest district and the smallest district at the local level. Congress, the congressional plans have to be balanced to one person under federal law, but local agencies are given a little bit more leeway for the equal population number. The second criteria that we look to is that we want to make sure that all districts are contiguous. They don't hop or skip over each other. There's not an island of one district completely surrounded by another. Another concept that we like to really think about with this is the idea of districts should be functionally contiguous. So you could draw two houses on either side of a freeway together. They might touch each other on a map, but functionally, there's no way to get from one point to the other. Another idea about functional contiguous is the idea of Catalina Island. Catalina Island doesn't touch, of course, LA or Long Beach or any part of the mainland, but it's functionally contiguous by harbor, by ferry from both Long Beach and the city of LA. So those would be functional to contiguous points that Catalina can get drawn to for the legislative lines. The third criteria and that is followed is the idea of maintaining communities of interest. Now, this concept can get a little bit confusing. So I wanted just to start by reading a definition. A community of interest is a neighborhood, community, or group of people who have common policy concerns and would benefit from being maintained in a single district. Another way of understanding a community of interest is that it is simply a way for a community to tell us in its own story about what neighbors share in common and what makes it unique when compared to surrounding communities. And so by definition, this is really a subjective criteria that we look to the public and the community to define for themselves and to bring it forward as we do the redistricting process. There are also communities of interest that are covered by the Voting Rights Act. The Latinx community, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and African Americans are all defined by the Voting Rights Act. And if there is an issue of the Voting Rights Act and we have to draw a majority minority district, we can use race as the predominant factor in drawing those lines. But if that is not the case, then we can't use race as the predominant factor in drawing district lines. So we can use them as a secondary or tertiary reason, but it can't be the predominant reason for drawing a line where we do in the district plan. These are a list of other communities of interest that often come up. People living near an industry, senior citizens, a downtown or urban core, rural or agricultural interests, homeowners and renters. But I think when we think about communities of interest, we really look to three basic questions to kind of define and guide community testimony. The first one is, does the community have a shared culture, characteristic, or bond? The second question is the community geographic in nature, and can it be mapped? And the third is the policy issue. What's the community's relationship with the jurisdiction, and how is it affected by the policy decisions made by the elected officials? So those are kind of the guiding principles we look to when discussing communities of interest. The fourth traditional criteria that you often look to with agencies the size of Pasadena's community college is trying to follow city, county, and other jurisdictional lines. Many community colleges focus particularly on defining districts based on the unified school district boundaries that they serve. They also can look to high school areas or other school district lines that come forward and that they overlap. Another thing that has come up, it came up a lot in 2011 when we did a series of redistricting processes with other community college districts, was trying to balance where campuses are so that multiple districts have at least one campus in their district to focus on. The final traditional redistricting principle is the idea that you should keep districts compact. Now, there are probably more than 100 definitions of compactness around the country. Some states even say that you simply can't have funny shaped districts. And I don't know how you figure that out from a court of law, but the great thing about California is we have a very simple definition, and it's here: not bypassing nearby populated areas in favor of more distant populated areas. So basically keeping neighborhoods that touch each other together, not going around a neighborhood to get a neighborhood farther from the current one, trying to create squares and circles as much as possible. And these two examples below show district maps that really violate the compactness idea in California. The one on the left you can see is 4 kind of strips of city council lines that go through a city, with the underlying rationale of trying to make sure that the downtown district or downtown area is in all 4 of the district maps. This really, we wouldn't think would comply with the compactness rule in California. The map on the right shows this red district that starts in the south, moves up through under a freeway and all the way out to the farthest north western corner of the city. Again, it's really bypassing a lot of closer areas to go grab another neighborhood for whatever reason. So this map, the city of Davis, a city we worked with to draw their lines, has a much more compact district lines, as you can see. The only one that's kind of oddly shaped is the southern district, the district number 5. That's because the upper line basically is Highway 80, and there's no way to get from 4 or 3 into 5 except for 2 different areas. So there's basically a path on the far eastern side of District 5 up into 4, and on the far western side of District 5 to get into District 3. And so that's why we thought through functional contiguity when drawing the 5th district. So those are the 5 kind of traditional redistricting principles that you probably thought through in 2011 when you were drawing your district lines. And something new that's kind of come forward in this redistricting process is with the passage of the California Fair Maps Act. Now, this was passed in 2019 by the legislature and only applies to cities and counties, but it sets out a set of principles that we think are the best practices for all agencies to try to comply with. The 3 elements that we really focus on from the Fair Maps Act and like to talk through with all agencies is the idea first of having an open, transparent process and conducting all our discussions about redistricting in a formal open hearing like this. The second element that the Fair Maps Act added implicitly to our law is that you not using incumbent or candidates' residents as a community of interest. So not doing an incumbency gerrymander as a policy. And then the third element is expanding on that idea and not drawing district lines to advantage a political party. Mm-hmm. Those are, again, Fair Maps Act criteria that you don't have to follow, but we just believe is the best practice for this redistricting process. So I think this is, yeah. So the final slide that I have, and then I'm here for questions, is just going through the timeline. So we're having this first introductory presentation tonight. We'll come back on October 20th to introduce draft maps to the board. We'll have a community interest or community input meeting, on the 25th. And then on December 8th, we'll have another meeting to discuss hopefully revisions and new draft plans that more align to what the board and the public are looking for. And then finally, coming back in January, we'll have the final plans for an up and down vote before the board. And in that meeting, we'll also allow for the ordering of elections of the district plan. So that concludes my formal presentation, but I'm now free to answer any questions you might have.
I see Sandra has a question.
Thank you for the presentation, Chris. My question is that were there a date in that there's some deadline dates in December or in pushing the deadline in December, or is that just for congressional districts and not necessarily local districts?
So it's a great question because there are tons of deadlines flying around. There are, for the community college districts, for the unified school districts and all other school districts, the deadline is February 28th of 2022 to pass your lines. So you even have time, right? If you need another meeting in February to pass your final lines, you have that leeway. The deadlines that you're thinking of, I think, there's a December 15th deadline for cities and counties that have primary elections in June of 2022. That's December 15th. There's also a deadline currently for the statewide Citizens Redistricting Commission. They're actually asking for an extension of that deadline due to the late census into January. They're before the Supreme Court with a plea, basically, and waiting to hear back from them, from the Supreme Court, California Supreme Court, sorry, on the final deadline for those lines.
So the fact that we have election in June 2022 doesn't impact the January 19th or the February 25th deadline?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We can double check with the registrar, but we are working with a number of districts, and the school district deadline is February 28th. So I can double check, but I'm pretty sure the January 19th would work.
Yeah, because some school districts have their board elections in November, but we have our elections in June.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Osterling.
Chris, are you able to provide us with the slides you just presented, in particular the key dates that were on the last slide?
Yes, I emailed the presentation. It was right before this tonight, so your staff should have it and they can share it with you, I'm sure, very soon.
Great, thank you.
Trustee Osterling, you didn't need him to pull it up, right? You just wanted to make sure you were going to have it.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't
great.
need him to pull it up again. I wanted to just get a copy of it.
Okay, great. Just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I don't see everyone, so let me go down to no questions over here. Okay, our trustee, student.
Thank you, Chris, for your presentation. My question is, can you share some, I guess, expectations for the community meeting?
I mean, I think ideally we'll have the draft maps out at least a week prior to the discussion on the October 20th. So hopefully by the 12th or 13th of October. So that would give the community the opportunity to ingest the maps, look them over, provide comment. Our standard operating procedure is always to provide 3 draft options and try to articulate the different binary choices you have kind of in redistricting, so that there are many options for people to look at. And then ideally, we would love to have people comment on those maps, talking about, we really like District 1 in Plan A. It really encapsulates the community well, but you have problems with these other district lines because they split cities, they split like underlying unified school district lines, or some other communities that are just not well represented in parts of Plan A. And so from the discussion and from that outreach hearing, we hope to have a lot of discussion about, did we get the plans right? Did we really look at the right community lines and make a good offering for the board? And it's also an opportunity for the board to say that, have the same level of discussion, right, of the district lines, what they like and what they didn't, so that when we come back with another set of district maps, we can conform them to those comments, and we can provide the board a better option in that second meeting that really aligns to what the community said and what the board is thinking.
Great. Do I see that Crystal has her hand up? Crystal.
Yeah, I just want to also comment to Trustee Gomez. What we did in 2011 is we posted the 3 map options to our website, and we had a form that the community could fill out and comment on the maps. And we found that to be very useful. And then we submitted those comments to redistricting partners to include in the next discussion with the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Is that what we should expect for this year round as
Yes,
well?
we will do that again.
Okay. Will there also be an opportunity for a on-site or in-person meeting? Because I'm sure that some of the areas have communities that may not have internet access and might prefer showing up to campus. And also another question for Chris, sorry, was how are you getting this information necessarily, aside from the online posts? Should we assume that we're going to be in all 7 areas trying to get feedback, or are we just focusing to what the college can obtain?
So I think on the outreach piece, I think the district is going to be conducting a series of outreach efforts throughout the process to try to get public engagement, right, and public feedback. The basic way for us to get the comments back from the community are through the website or through anything communicated through district staff. That's at this point the strategy for public engagement. But there's always, there's always other ways to engage the public. So it would be great if you really want to make sure that we get commentary from a specific area, to reach out. We can provide you with this presentation. We can also provide, there's community of interest forms, and there's other pieces of information that could be helpful to you to increase in public engagement. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any hands. Okay. Seems like we have no more questions. Okay, Chris, seems like you're off the hook.
Well, thank you. Thank you for kicking this off, and we look forward to working with you throughout.
Well, we thank you for coming back. I know you guys did a great job the last time, so we expect the same. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay. That was easy. Okay, so next on the agenda is combined consent items or approval of consent calendar items G1 to G16. Do we have
Move to approve.
Okay, any discussion, questions? If not, we'll go for the vote. Mr. Buckingham?
Student trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
Thank you. And the next is the H personnel. And in this one, we don't, the student does not vote. So do we have, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we'll go for vote.
Can I have
Yeah,
make
no,
some discussions?
not on this one.
No.
Thanks.
Sorry. And personnel, you students are not allowed to vote or discuss. Sorry about that. So vote.
Just a question on a point of order. If someone could help me, I know that student trustees don't vote on personnel items. Are they allowed to discuss or ask?
Yes, they can. If a student, if the student trustee has a comment about an item on in this area, the student trustee can make a comment. They just cannot vote. So Trustee Gomez, did you have a comment?
Trustee Gomez?
I did have some. I mean, I also was able to clarify a lot with you, Dr. Inja Jonas. in the
Okay.
meeting. But I just wanted to also test waters because I do have plenty of opinions. I wish I could have given some opinions in some of the past agenda items in these sections. But for now, you've already clarified a lot. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for that lack of clarity before. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee not voting on this item.
Thank you. So now we'll go to action items recommended for approval. We will begin with action item number 1. Appoint 2 voting delegates to ACCT. Do we need discussion or just, what do we need to do?
So Trustee Brown, could I just give a little information?
Please.
So I think there's only 3 of us who have signed up so far. Dr. Inja Jonas, is that correct? Trustee Silver, Trustee Osterling, myself.
I believe so.
So I just wanted to say we're doing outreach to all of the districts. So this is why it's kind of fresh in my mind. We have a number of California candidates who will be running for office. So this is where the voting delegates role needs to come in. And I'm one of them. So I don't have to be one of the voting delegates, but I would say whoever we select, they have to commit to being available on Thursday of that conference day for the Pacific region voting, and they must stay throughout the entire time because ACCT does multiple rounds of voting to get to the top candidate. So we often see that we have voting delegates who will vote the first time and then they'll just leave after the first round. You have to stay through the whole round. The second opportunity to vote will be at the Senate on Friday morning at 8:30. And that should last also another 2 hours. So I have not been the delegate in the past. I always, in the last couple of 3 years, I guess, because I've always passed the baton to someone else because I've been the teller. And it's, well, I could do both. Nice to spread the wealth and let everybody else do it. So anyway, I am not wedded to doing it. So if Trustee Silver and Trustee Osterling want to be the voting delegates, that's great too. But as long as you commit to being there at those times.
So am I assuming that Trustee Silver, what is your take on that?
Happy to.
Good. About Trustee Osterling?
What are the dates?
So that's the conference is from the 13th to the 16th of October. And on the 14th, we will be voting for the Pacific region. We have 4 candidates in the Pacific region running, including we're going to be recommending 2 additional candidates from other states who we've partnered with. And in the Senate, there will be an opportunity to vote for 4 directors at large. We're recommending our California candidate who will be running from the floor, Trustee Malauulu from Long Beach, and Trustee DiCarlo from Nevada, who is a partner and is an incumbent. We are also in discussion with several other states on supporting them. So we'll be having a delegation meeting on Wednesday when people get in.
I did originally intend to sign up for this conference, and I believe I'm going to be out of the country during those dates unless this trip that is scheduled is to be canceled by COVID. And right now it appears that it won't be canceled. So I better not.
Okay,
Sounds like it's Linda.
Yeah, so it sounds like Trustee Silver, myself, and if you show up, Trustee Osterling, I can always hand over the badge to you. So
okay.
A lot of flexibility on that.
Yeah, okay.
So we are going to.
I'll make a motion to nominate Linda Waugh and Trustee Silva.
I'll second with the understanding that the alternate would be Jim Osterling. If that's agreeable to you, Tony.
Sure, that's fine.
Can we do that? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
good. Okay, so roll call.
Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Sanlao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
Excellent. So now we go to item 2, nominate Trustee Tammy Silver for ACCT policy. And
I move to approve.
I second that. Do we have any discussion? If not, we'll take the vote.
I just quickly want to thank Trustee Silver for stepping up to do that. She's been very active and involved since she's joined the board, and I think she'll be ideal for that position.
Me too. I second that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have the roll call, please?
Student trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Waugh.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
Aye.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
Thank you. Item number 3, public hearing of the proposed 2021-22 budget and fund allocation. Do we have to open a hearing or just?
Yes, you do. You have to officially open the hearing, the public hearing, and then you can go on to the presentation.
Okay, so at this point, I'm opening the hearing for the proposed budget for 2021-22 and fund allocation.
Okay. And now you go to item number 4 and we can turn it over to Candace and her staff.
Presentation, item number 4 of the adoption of the proposed budget and allocation.
Good evening, trustees. Good evening, community. Tonight is our presentation on the proposed adopted budget for 21-22. I'll walk you through some prepared slides. If you have questions, I will do my best to watch for hands raised and pause for moments if we have those. So if I miss you, just let me know, but I'll do my best to watch for everyone. I'd like to start really quickly by recapping when we had our June tentative adopted budget presentation. We mentioned and talked really briefly around the state budget framework. And so I wanted to confirm some of our assumptions that we then built into the adopted budget. The first being that our 21-22 adopted budget includes the 5.07% cost of living adjustment that was approved through the governor's budget. It also, I wanted to recognize that we received our cash deferrals were paid back Last year's cash deferrals were paid back actually in July and August of this year. And I wanted to clarify when we chatted before around all of the new state allocations, both one-time funding and ongoing funding that the state was proposing for districts to receive. I just wanted to make mention, those things are still in process. The district currently has not received any of those funds largely because some of the trailer bills are either recently being signed or still in the process of being signed. And the way that we will express that out into the future for you all to see is whenever we have a consent item that shows a budget augmentation, we would report that on a board meeting. So you would see any additional funding that the state has allocated for any one of those projects that were previously designated. So most of the assumptions are in line with what we had in tentative in June. This is really a quick adopted budget summary for 21-22. With our state apportionment, lottery, our state mandated claims, non-resident tuition, our CalSTRS on behalf payments, categorical student fees and others, as well as our lost revenue recovery for CARES. We're actually starting to budget that in. We didn't do that in 2021 because that was new for us, but we have proactively planned some of those HERF lost recovery fees in. You'll see we're at about $186 million, almost $187 million in terms of our revenue. Our expenses, very consistent to where we have been in previous years. We're at almost 90%, so 89.2% of all of our budget really goes for salary and benefits. With supplies, operating expenses, capital outlay, and other outgoing transfers, really accounting for about 10% of that unrestricted budget. This is a real sort of quick snapshot of where we ended 21-22. This is our unaudited actual fund balances. You will notice a few areas where we had some transfers out. I'll speak about that in just a second as it relates to where we were in some of the variances that we experienced at the end of 2021, which I always tend to like to. So as it relates to, as I'm working and the teams, so both Jesse, Heba, their teams are working on this, it's very important for us to call attention to any items that are a little bit different than what we projected for 2021. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the unanticipated income that we received actually in June, right before we closed our books. As well as some of the expense categories which directly relate to then some of the transfers that we made. So if you look at the detail report, I wanted to call attention to the fact that in our federal income, we had a drawdown of about $500,000 in CARES indirect cost recovery. This is something that at the beginning of the adopted budget in 2019, we hadn't really understood or known. I mean, no district would understand how we should plan for that in the budget. And so we see then increases in revenue or income at that time, about $500,000 that we were able to actually reimburse the college with CARES funding. Locally, in the local lines, we received some additional income, about $3.3 million in our line 8817, which is our educational revenue augmentation unexpectedly, right in June as we were closing our books, as well as another $654,000 in our redevelopment agency. And other financing sources, so we also were able to do some intertransfer in which we were able to book $2.4 million for lost revenue recovery against our CARES funds. Those things were not included in the original 2021 adopted budget. So those show as additional income for that year that was unplanned.
Candace, would you explain to the trustees, as you did to our committee, the educational revenue augmentation?
Sure, sure. Actually, I think Jessie does a bit of a better job.
Oh, okay.
at that.
All right, thank
But
you.
she's on as well, and I'll let her take that one.
Thank you, Candace, and hello, trustees. So the education redevelopment augmentation is a part of our property tax. So the way that the calculation is done at the state and the district level. So then the state does the calculation for our property tax, and then we receive a portion of that. So we receive a preliminary budget from the state, telling us what we should anticipate this year, and but the revenue always come in a little bit higher than what was projected to us. So that then this year, the revenue came in a lot higher than what was projected to us. So, and it has to do with the value of the property tax that comes in. The more of the property that comes in, the more of this fund that we receive as a result. So with that, I'll pass it back to Candace.
Any additional questions on that piece, other than I would say this ties directly to when we talked about the tentative budget and the state was reporting tremendous surplus, unanticipated surplus. I think all of that sort of meshes together in terms of whenever then we're receiving additional property tax that the state just never believed that we would get when they originally did the calculations. So we're the beneficiaries of that. In addition, so we had more money come in. And then we also are continuing to experience last year, our expenses being down due to the COVID-19 impact. So overall, academic and classified compensation. So we know that we had less adjuncts, less hourly staff in our 2020-21 budget period. So that direct, whether it's salary and benefits, that adds up. Supplies and materials, overall expenses are down $1 million. So if we had $9 million in expenses that were not expensed due to the impact, then we also are down on supplies and materials as well as services. And so what rolls up into that service category is largely like utilities or rentals, things that we normally do or normally have, just aren't done at the same levels as previous years. And so there's about a $3.6 million down in expense. So if you think about this, you have additional income that the state is sending our way that they never anticipated giving us, but now have to give us, as well as expenses going down. That directly actually ties to then how we manage that with what we call transfers. And so transfers.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I have a question going back onto the expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the academic and classified compensation, the overall expenses down 9.2 million, does that correlate with that the college did not have as many classes, or
No,
okay, go ahead.
It's a little bit in both categories.
Okay.
So if you think about online classes can actually have more students, but less faculty needing to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so in an online format, there is some flexibility there, as well as our hourly staff, whether lab assistants, professional experts that help on campus facilities, whether in classrooms or even on-site program support, all of that. If those things are not happening, because again, this is split between academic and classified,
Mm-hmm.
and our hourly positions. If we're not filling those positions because we don't have boots on the ground, then there's a direct impact of us saving those funds.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. So then the question often becomes, okay, so how are we going to best leverage that for the benefit of the district? And how do we proactively then plan for that next budget cycle? So first I'll start with how we helped managed that in the last fiscal cycle. So you see these categories called transfers, and I kind of want to talk through a few of them because I think they're important, that they're making some really great strides with the district to shore up some areas that need some help. So normally we often do transfers into our restricted general fund. That's a normal transfer. Our transfer to the Child Development Center fund, our obligation is to pay for a portion of that. That's normal. What's different and unique about this year or last year's 2020-21 budget is that we were actually able to transfer $13.6 million into capital outlay. While that is very important for two reasons. One, we are experiencing, so we are in full construction on our Serafian project. And there is a portion of that 20% that the college is obligated to pay. What we are finding as we are entering into the project in full sort of abatement, and we are finding, and I would say construction in general is experiencing huge labor issues and shortages. So that is a higher cost, as well as materials costs. We are seeing markups of about 29% on construction projects that weren't anticipated. And yet the college has to absorb those fees. We're not going to get additional funding from the state in terms of their allocation. Now, we, of course, are going to ask, but it is highly unlikely that we are going to receive any more to help support the Serafian building. And so it is on the college then to come up with the funding gap related to that. And so it's important that we're able to do that and continue to support that project in active construction, as well as thinking about, we want to be prepared that if we have to make the first payment on our COP, that we have the funding to do so. So that money has been earmarked for Serafian in particular, as well as then payment back on the COP if the board chooses, if we don't want to go for a bond in 2022. So that is the planning process around that, to be proactive. The property in the Fund 62, that was reported out at tentative budget, 2 million transfer, and those are always pre-funds so that we can manage our property and liability self-insurance. What's a little bit different about our Fund 64, our OPEB, is instead of transferring $2 million, we actually transferred $5 million. And the thought process around that is we're actually moving 3 million of that to the irrevocable trust, with the intention that the continued investment into the irrevocable trust at a point where then the interest of that will help cover the future liabilities for the district. So this is a proactive investment for us to make. And when we have funds like that, it's important that we care and feed that a bit. And the last two transfers are based on our bookstore commissions. And so we were able to gain that through our lost revenue piece. And so you'll see that we moved and transferred into Associated Students, their normal transfer, as well as another $290,000 from the bookstore commissions through lost revenue to our trust and agency area. So the funds that were reserved or that came in late, and or we had expenses that we didn't need to pay, actually went for really good causes to shore up some of the work that's particularly going around in construction. So then how do we manage, how did we think about then and plan for the 21-22 budget? Because right now, to be quite honest, the budgets are a little volatile in this very sort of unpredictable moment. Just a year ago, Dr. Bush was reporting we may have deficits, and so every year, and as the state is sort of trying to calculate what the impact of the budget is going to be on the state of California, we are consistently trying to proactively manage those pieces. And so then what we did for our 21-22 budget is to really think about what did we learn in our 2021 budget, our unaudited totals. What did we learn? So we learned that now we are actually going to plan for and budget for our CARES indirect cost summary. So you'll see that as a line item in the budget. Local income, we've actually, so the fiscal budget area has done a wonderful job doing some real data analysis on what our non-resident tuition number actually should be. So the new budgeted number for 8880, our non-resident tuition, is actually the actuals for 21-22 plus 1.2%. So instead of us always being over that number, we're going to proactively budget that. In addition, we planned for an additional 1.5 million for transfers in against the CARES for lost revenue recovery. Those things weren't planned in 2021, but now they are planned in 21-22. We have made some adjustments on our expenses so that we don't report out some huge gaps. So we have made a reduction in our supply budget because we have made some real efforts of moving some of our pre-planned activity and expenses to restricted and unrestricted lottery. So that happened. We also made a reduction on our conferences, seminars, and workshops because we don't anticipate this year being able to travel. The travel piece is still unknown. And so we anticipate light travel and we want to budget for that. In line 5150, other funding. This is a really great designation. We have earmarked an additional $900,000 in funding ready and available for salary adjustments, new positions, and we do and expect, so Dr. Ramirez is reporting and has planned for an increase in our faculty obligation number in our FON. And so we need to be able to quickly fund those positions and get those positions out for recruitment. And so that's what that line is for. And then our 5189 account, we have $1 million there. Largely for unpaid encumbrances for fiscal year 2021. We don't want that eating into somebody's budget this budget cycle. Really quickly, here's our FTE budgeted positions. So that gives you our NIMLs. We've grown slightly between 2021 to 21-22. I just want to make a quick call out to our 311 report. We reported last year that we are at 52%, 52.5% of our 50% law. So we are in compliance and are looking really great there. Here's a little bit about our CARES funding. I wanted to kind of share out where we're at, but both with the institutional fund portion and our student portion. So this is a layout of all of the institutional portion funding. And you'll see in each of, we've expended the federal block grant, our CARES block grant. If you notice that there's an end date on that third row. So that tells us when we actually need to expend the funding by. So it gives us some guardrails to think about. And as we go through, I had reported out in June that we'd done some real planning around our HERF2 funding. And you'll notice that we've earmarked or encumbered, let's talk about it as an encumbrance, $18.4 million. And so if you look down at that last line, there's some anticipated project that we've earmarked that funding for. So particularly for students, we've done a really good job using institutional portion to continue to support our students, even outside of the student portion. So we've covered UPass for students. We gave this really fabulous bookstore credit to all students. Any student who was enrolled could go to the bookstore. We paid all materials fees. We're giving some incentives around vaccination records. And so that is bundled in that $18.4 million that has been allocated for the fall. We very well may do that for the spring semester, but we wanted to make sure that we understood what we were doing for fall. Some employee related, of course, we have some MOU agreements. We continue to make investments around safety, ventilation, PPE, as well as technology, and additional staffing is being funded using these funds. Our student portion, here's a quick look at that, remembering that the student portion goes directly to students. This is funding that's given directly to them through grants. And I know Dr. Olivo is doing a lot of planning effort about that next round of funding. But they're busy working through our initial disbursements right now and doing some fall planning for our next round of her funding. But that's where we're at today. And then what I'd like to add, this is sort of this new component today. I wanted to say that the college makes strategic investments in a host of different areas. This year, I thought it would be really important to kind of talk about 3 strategic investments that we've made and for budget year 21-22. And so this is around equity, technology, and facilities. I think what becomes a challenge for anyone sort of seeing what is the total investment when funding is crossing funding lines. So we talk about the general unrestricted fund. So tonight we spent a good portion of our time talking about the general unrestricted fund, but the college receives categorical funds, restricted funds, we have capital outlay funds. And so it can be difficult to understand what the actual college's investment into any one category, depending on where it's funded. So this year we just thought, hey, we'd like to share out for these 3 areas. So starting with equity, I think what's important here, and this is really around the Student Equity and Achievement Program funding. There are 5 different organizations orgs in our budget categories that have C program funding. And so what I'd like to share is there's an $8.6 million investment in equity related work across the campus that is supported through this C programming. What's important for our 21-22 priorities that I think is we've created this new division under Dr. Boland's leadership called the Division of Institutional Equity, Diversity, and Justice. That division has been created, as well as a new budgetary org created for that. The work around creating DEI readiness at local levels is funded through this funding. Employee DEI certification process for staff and faculty through this funding, as well as additional Black and African American student recruitment, all uses this $8.6 million to push forward our equity work. Now, that doesn't mean that funding couldn't come from elsewhere, but this is specifically related to the Student Equity and Achievement Program funding.
Candace, do you think you could provide an example of what does creating DEI readiness mean on local levels? What would be a sample project that will be under creating DEI readiness?
I will try my best, but if Dr. Boland is on, because that is really under her purview. I do the numbers, but
okay, I gotcha. I understand.
But these were the reported items that were her priorities. I don't know if she's still on, so I don't want to.
I am.
Okay.
I am. And thank you so much for centering the conversation around that. And I'm so appreciative to Dr. Androjanis and folks for, prioritizing this funding to support this work. An example of that would be supporting diversity councils within our academic divisions. Affording faculty the opportunity to come together at the table, kind of talk through the nuances that are specific to the equity gaps within their departments and programs, and then build out an action plan. And that might involve supporting some faculty stipends as it relates to moving this work along so that we're able to operationalize it effectively and efficiently. That allows for us, again, to, prepare that readiness around DEI on that local level and really meet the needs of building out that institutional capacity.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boland. All right, the second investment that we'll focus on this year is around our technology investment. And so again, this can be a challenge to sort of understand what has been budgeted for technology because it actually crosses many funds. It's in our general unrestricted fund, it's in Fund 41, it's unrestricted lottery. And so it's very easy to lose sight of how much technology investment the college has. So we're at about a little over $14 million. That splits between salaries, instructional equipment, non-instructional equipment, multi-user software, consultants, other services, and repair and maintenance. And so it's important to understand that the technology initiatives or the purchases that come through are actually budgeted expenses. What I think is easy to lose sight of is that the fact that there are many funding sources that support technology investment for the college. And so some of the 21-22 priorities are, we are replacing our telephone system. That was on our last board report. We often replace, we're in the process of replacing about 1/3 of our network equipment. We have a security camera replacement RFP process. It was on this board to solicit vendors for that. So we'll be replacing our security cameras. And then we have a new project that we're actually going to fund through CARES around digital IDs and keyless entry, so folks don't have to touch things and we can get in and out of buildings without having physical keys or needing to touch doors and things like that. So that's kind of like where our investments are as a whole. And then, oh, wrong way. Our facilities investment, again, very similar to technology. It's very easy to lose sight of the whole pie because they come from various funding sources. So facility is largely funded out of Fund 1, our unrestricted general fund, as well as our capital outlay fund, which is Fund 41. There are several key projects that are happening. So there's about a $23.5 million investment that we make pretty much every year, because a lot of these projects, so this is not what you're seeing here, this investment does not include the Serafian building or the project. That is a different source of funding. But there's a lot of care and feeding for our facilities that happen. So you'll see a good portion of that is in salaries and benefits for our staffing, various projects. So we have some for our 21-22 project priorities. We're doing some landscaping and some new plan around our Del Mar line. We have a STEM building, Mirror Pool, Sexton Auditorium, and Galloway Plaza, some design work that's starting on those projects to get them ready for actual construction awards. Our emergency lighting and replacement, campus-wide painting. So this is sort of, I would consider, our scheduled maintenance types of activities that we do every year. But this gives some context when you do see Maxi Sanitary or other facilities related purchases. This gives you some context in terms of all the funding sources that support facilities. And are there any questions?
I have some questions.
Sure.
So Candace, on the chart with the HERS funding, how many students does that translate to that receive this funding, this type of funding, and was anyone turned down?
For the student portion of the funding or the institutional portion?
Student.
So Dr. Olivo actually oversees the disbursement, but I don't want to put her on the spot. That might be a question that we can come back.
She just came on the screen. So let's see what Dr. Olivo has to say.
Hello, everyone. So
Hi,
we utilize two methods of providing these funds directly to students. One was a formula-driven method that we identified through students who had the greatest need from a financial aid perspective. And the other process is that we had students fill out a one-page application for emergency aid. And so between both of those methods, we were able to fund almost every student that requested funds or that needed funds.
So do we have can we disaggregate that number? Do we know? I mean, so do we know how many students that was? Do we know across our district by area? How many?
In total for HERF 1, I would say that was around 9,000 students. HERF 2, again, around 9,000 students. And then HERF 3, you see it's a larger dollar amount. So we expect to help even more students with that. between now and spring.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was curious is I did attend the Black student enrollment webinar, and I think that one of the things, the charts that RP group came up with is that the Black students receive less funding than any other students. So I was just curious, what that breakdown looked like. So, you don't have to provide it now, but maybe at some point we can take a look at it. I think it would be helpful for the trustees to know who's getting this, and if there were any students who needed it and didn't get it. And then also a question came up in my community is, did we use any of this funding, or could we have used any of this funding for the affordability issues that the students face, housing and food insecurities?
Yes, I will say that when we were developing the formula for HERF round 1, I did disaggregate the data by race and ethnicity to identify if we were providing the dollars to the student groups that exist in our equity plan disproportionate impact data, and it was. So then I knew it was safe to rely on the formula to provide the funding to the students who need it the most. And I can make sure to give you that data.
That'd be great, Cynthia. Thank you. And then not for you necessarily. So I was just curious that our fund number increased. I didn't realize that. Does the fund number increase every year? I thought it was pretty stable.
It goes up and down depending on our enrollment, but we also had quite a few folks retire. So when I arrived, our fund had gone up to 448. And then a year ago, it was 405. And now I'm going to put Dr. Ramirez on the spot to remind me what our fund is for this coming year. There she is.
Hi. Based on P1, or the advanced, I should say, we're at 432 full-time faculty.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Those are my questions.
And I see Trustee Osterling's hand is up.
Thank you. First of all, Candace, thank you to you and your staff for this presentation and the level of detail that you've gone to, because it helps us to really understand what's going on. And this is a unique year with all of the COVID funds, CARES and HERS money available. You had a pie chart, several pie charts, one talking about DEI funding, and I'm a big fan of making those expenditures or investments in that area. Is our reporting system designed so that we can report out on our budget and our actual? Because it seems like our reporting system more reports in terms of departments, and these DEI numbers really are across departments and it's personnel and supplies and all of that. Are you going to be able to report back to us on what we budgeted for that, which we have here, and what we're going to, and then what we actually spend, and then how we spend it? What are the initiatives that it actually goes for?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts. So we have engaged some consultant help to help us track things by activity codes, and also to reorganize our organizational cost structure to be able to do that more easily. So we're doing a lot of manual work to even put this together, which was great. I mean, it allowed us to kind of see where the funding sources actually are. So we are doing some planning work to get that infrastructure in place to do a better job at that in the future. I think then as you get the 311 reports, the 311s always have the detail on where we spend and which activity we spend against. So you'll see, like, even in our 311, it's super detailed about each activity. Where we're going to be doing some work around is the activities around important initiatives like equity work. So like right now it's bundled at like a student services level or supplies and materials and things like that. And so we're going to be trying to craft some strategies around that.
That's great. And yeah, and I hope that we can do that through the system, because I know what it takes to create all of these manual side reports to aggregate the same data in different ways. Okay, thank you. And then the second question, I have a couple more. The second question, and this is a repeat of the question I had for you and your staff at the last audit and budget meeting, and that is can we get a analysis of the expenditures of CARES money by categories, both for the institutional and the student? And that's kind of a repetition of Linda's request a short while ago, so we can see where we're spending that money on. And then a subset of that issue is as we spend money on technology, whether it be CARES money or not, do we have plans to make every classroom OWL technology capable? And the reason I ask that question is in our optimal world, we would be able to offer an in-person class that's also available synchronously through an OWL camera to those that can't or don't want to come on campus while we're still in this COVID era. Do we have a specific plan for that technology expenditure?
So I will answer. Let's start with your OWLCAM question in particular. So the institution used CARES funding to purchase, so about 150, 160 classrooms today are outfitted with OWLCAMs. And they're being used actively to help with either hybrid instruction or instruction that's happening on class and then bring students in. I think where we would want to make sure that what we're doing in the future is really working with our faculty and the academic senate and other areas about what that classroom model needs to look like. Because I don't know as a technologist whether I'm in the best position to determine that for them, but I would want to really partner with the academic senate and other faculty groups to really help us reimagine what the classroom experience is, as opposed to just saying all classrooms should have OWLCAMs. Right now, 150 classrooms, which is a significant number of classrooms on this campus, have OWLCAMs, as well as all of our conference rooms.
Great. And do you know what that would be as a percentage of our classrooms, roughly?
Laura might need to help me. It's probably like 30, 40%.
Cool.
Significant number.
Yeah, probably a little less, but it's still significant. And we really don't have a way to measure usage. It may be used in some disciplines more than others. In some, it's not helpful, like in our laboratory sciences, that would not be appropriate.
Right, understood. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then you mentioned we're spending CARES money on hands-free entry, and early on in the pandemic, there was great concentration placed on surface cleansing, and then as it's evolved, now we're being told the science is that the transmittal is not on surfaces, it's on the air. And it seems to me that taking a good old-fashioned low-tech door and making it a keyless and handless entryway is very expensive to do that, and no doubt it will also be expensive to maintain when that technology breaks down and has to be repaired. And does it really make sense to spend a lot of money on hands-free entry if the transmission is through the air and not on surfaces?
So let me give you some context around the keyless entry approach that I think I may have led you down the wrong path. So I'll own every bit of that. So the digital ID piece of the keyless entry is that instead of us actually issuing physical ID cards to staff, faculty, students, that we actually get rid of that footprint, which is not only environmentally sound to not be printing plastic cards, but it also allows us to be a little bit more mobile in terms of digital access. So, for example, campuses are using digital IDs in food areas, so scanning for, hey, meal plans. So four-year colleges have meal plans. We may want to load funding for students in terms of Lancer Care, in terms of food, vouchers and things can be all digitally loaded here. You can swipe in and out of events without having to swipe cards. You don't have the infrastructure needed to actually print physical ID stations where people are needing to take pictures and things of that. So that is actually directionally where technologies is going as it relates to ID.
Got it. So we would be using phones instead of cards.
Yes.
Understood.
Yes.
Okay.
So where that transitions though to keyless entry, and the piece there is the fact that we have keys that we issue to individuals across this campus to get in and out of exterior doors. So think about the management of not only the keys for all of the external doors, and our ability to not only lock down the facility in the event of a safety issue, we would be able to lock doors or in a situation like an active shooter. I hate to say that, but these are things that we need to be planning for. We could open doors, so we wouldn't have to have people physically unlock doors every morning and physically lock doors every evening. We can use technology to help provide a robust system of entry and exit for the college campus. So it is an investment, but it's something that we believe that not only we can upfront with our CARES money, but we have the budget and the capital outlay to sustain that ongoing.
Got it. Okay. And thank you. And that ends my questions. And just again, I really would like to personally understand a basic question. We've received X amount of $1 million from the government in CARES, and here's the 5 categories we've spent it on. And that's a question I do get from my constituents, and I don't really feel like I'm able to answer that question right now. This is a good report to show us where it came from and the different funds and how much is spent and how much is left, but I do not understand what we've actually spent it on.
Happy to provide that.
Yeah, thank you. That's the end of my questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I can't see anyone, so. Oh, there we go. Any other questions? I must say this was a great presentation. You guys are really, really doing a good job. I really feel good. We have some money. So, you know, do we have any other questions? If not, we'll move on.
So you'll close the public hearing.
Yes, I will close. But first, I want to thank Candace. This is very good.
Yes.
You guys are doing very, very good.
I have what's known as the fiscal dream team.
Yes, they
Candace, Hedva, and Jesse.
Okay, so
they rock.
So at this time, we will close, right?
Right.
Close the budget
Hearing. And move on to number 5, adoption of the proposed.
And move on to adoption 5, adoption of the proposed budget and fund allocation.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, so we had all the discussion. So at this time, can we get the vote, please?
I see John
Just
Martin.
going to officially say, Chair Brown, the committee is recommending approval.
Oh, well, very good. Yes, thank you. Okay, so do we have, let's take the roll.
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chin Lau.
Aye.
Trustee Osterlin.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wah.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow.
I vote aye. Madam Chair, I do have to leave this meeting. Thank you. I wanted to get through this.
Okay, thank you.
The vote is 7-0 with the student trustee voting aye.
All right, thank you. So now we will move to item is that 6?
Yes,
Yeah.
adopt. Mhm.
Okay, adopt annual.
I'd move approval of the 311 report and also inform the full board the committee reviewed this in detail and is recommending its approval.
Thank you, Trustee Martin.
Second.
Okay, so now we have a first and a second. So can we have the vote, please?
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wah.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow is absent. The vote is 6-0 with 1 absence, and Student Trustee Gomez voting aye.
Thank you.
Trustee Brown, if I may.
Yes.
Again, on behalf of the committee and behalf of the board, I'm sure just wish to express appreciation to the finance team led by Candace Jones and the Dream crew she mentioned. I think there's a tremendous amount of financial information that was just presented to us. And I thought it was presented in a very orderly way. And I also give them the Goldilocks Award. There's been presentations that are so detailed with so many numbers that you're drowning in them and you really don't get the context. And I think they did the Goldilocks of in a presentation that did give us context and did give us understanding with a lot of numbers and detail. So I just want to express that publicly.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. I feel the same. Okay, we are now moving to item number 7, naming of Pasadena City College Biotechnology. Do we have any presentation or any questions, or just approval is all we need, or?
We just need a motion.
Okay, do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Okay, so may we please have the vote?
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Congratulations on the gift. Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wah.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Fellow is absent. The vote is 6-0 with 1 absence, and Student Trustee Gomez voting aye.
Okay, thank you. Next is the adoption of Resolution 693 in support of Native American Day. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we will have a vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was wondering who had drafted that resolution.
I'm sorry, what?
I was wondering who had drafted the resolution, and obviously for number 9 as well. We haven't gotten there yet, but I was just wondering who had drafted the resolution.
Alex, do you want to take that answer?
Certainly. I drafted the resolution drawing on some other resolutions that we did pass previously and other situations.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to reach out. I was wondering who had done so. I really appreciate it, specifically because we've made it a practice within this meeting to acknowledge the land, but this is just another step, another part of that process. So thank you.
Okay. Thanks for your comment. So do we have a vote? Did we take the vote already? We have not taken the vote, right?
We have not taken the vote. All right, Alex.
Seconded and waiting for a vote.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go. May we have the vote, please?
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen Lao.
Aye.
Trustee Osterling.
Aye.
Trustee Brown.
Aye.
Trustee Silver.
Aye.
Trustee Wah.
Aye.
Trustee Martin.
Aye.
And Trustee Fellow is absent. The vote is 6-0 with 1 absence. And Student Trustee votes aye.
Thank you. Next is the adopt resolution number 694 in support to National Hispanic Heritage Month. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, can we have the vote, please?
Student Trustee Gomez.
Aye.
Trustee Chen-Lao,
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Fellow is absent. The vote is 6-0 with 1 absence, and student trustee votes aye.
Now for the next items 10 through 21, Trustee Brown, you can take them. If somebody would like to make a single motion to approve all of those together, you can do that.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, your motion is for what?
My motion is to consolidate items, agenda items.
10 through 21.
10 Thank you, 10 through 21 for one vote.
Thank you.
Approval.
And the
For
next,
approving them.
Yeah.
Right, Jim?
Yeah, that we would vote on all of those as one vote.
And the
Very good.
motion is to approve them all
Motion
in that
is-
one vote.
Yes.
and the second?
Well, no, wait, I'm just making a motion that we do it in one vote and then we would have the vote.
We understand.
I have a question.
Right.
Yes.
Erica, can you explain why we can do this in one setting and some other ones we couldn't do in one setting?
Well, I believe that in this case, they're all the same.
Okay.
Except they're exactly the same, except they're with different groups. I mean, there's some little tiny differences, but in the other cases, there are places where trustees have wanted to make a comment about a particular item. So you get into this kind of weird thing where you say, okay, we're going to take items 2 through 10 with the exception of 4, because 4, and so that's why you can do that.
Thanks for that clarification.
So
Okay.
point of order, I believe we could just make a motion that says we'd like to approve items 10 through 21. I don't know that we have to procedurally, Jim, take a motion to lump them.
I'm not, yeah, that's a good point of order, John. I'm not sure if it has to be a motion to consolidate and then hold the vote, or if we can do it all at once.
I think you can do it all at once.
I think you can do it all at once because you're not fundamentally changing the agenda. You haven't changed anything. You've just decided to make a motion to collapse a bunch of action items together. That doesn't require a separate motion. So
Got it.
I think
I'll amend my motion to vote to approve items 10 through 21.
right,
And
which
the
is what
second
Trustee Martin
will-
was asking. Yes.
And the second will accept that.
I accept the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so. can
Clear
have
as
a
mud.
vote, please.
Okay, Alex.
Trustee Chen-Lao,
Aye.
Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Waugh,
Aye.
Trustee Martin,
Aye.
Trustee Fellow is absent. The vote is 6-0 with 1 absence, and student trustee does not vote on personal items.
Thank you. Okay, now we are going to informational items. President Erica Andrew Jones.
Okay, thank you. Speeding right along, we've had a lot of meaty discussion, but we're still doing well on time. So fall is well underway. As you know, we are towards the end of our 3rd week, and like others around the state, our enrollment is down from years past. We're not down as far as some folks are, but it is a local trend, a state trend, a national trend, and an international trend, as folks have said. So we have addressed the bot attack, those robots, and we were mentioned in an LA Times article. Just so you know, we were mentioned in that article without them reaching out to us. They just sort of lumped us together on that, and we have dropped Dr. Olivo, correct me if I am wrong, we dropped
2,500, yes.
2,500 students who were fake. And we on Friday, the chancellor's office is requiring that we report all those names to them, because what they're going to be doing is going and cross-checking their systems. It would be great if we got their list and we could cross-check, because right now it is a very manual process, but we are working to see how we can automate it. And I don't know if do you want to say anything else about that, Dr. Olivo?
Yeah, we have a staff member who actually did the analysis between every query to identify these bot students. And so we're having her work closely with IT to figure out a way to make it automatic. So the hard part is that these bots become smarter to not be detected. So it does take a lot of manual work.
But the good news is that we did not disperse any financial aid to these fraudulent students. And that's key, because anything that we had, if we had done that, we would have been responsible for it in what's known as return to Title IV. So thankfully, we were able to catch that ahead of time. But this, as you saw in the newspaper article, 65,000 fake fraudulent students. So this is huge. Happy to report that once again, we are #1 for the 3rd year in a row. PCC is #1 combined transfers to the UC and the CSU systems. So once again, we're at the top of that. We have some great news from our Natural Sciences Division. Dr. Veronica Jaramillo, also our Academic Senate Vice President, was inducted as a fellow into the American Chemical Society. Dr. Elizabeth Nagy in Geology published an article entitled Building Community College Leadership Through Geoscience Faculty Development in New Directions for Community Colleges. Also, student Janet Tang, who I mentioned last meeting, was an intern at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. She competed in the Ignite Off Challenge. Well, she won the national award for that. So kudos. Her research was on metal corrosion, and it beat out student interns from 4-year universities and even graduate students. So congratulations to Janet. And I just want to point out from athletics that the PCC women's track and field alumna Brianna Clark not only won a gold medal at the Tokyo Special Olympics in the women's T20 400-meter race last month, she also broke her own world record. She also won a gold medal in the Rio de Janeiro Special Olympics in 2016. So we're very honored to have her as one of our alumna here at PCC. I also wanted to point out, if you wanted to check new additions to our COVID-19 response webpage, there's a data dashboard that shows the latest information on vaccinations, cases in our community, and data about our responses. I do want to really thank everybody who has worked so hard on the campus since day one, since March 12th. And I think folks have done an amazing job, and thank the Board of Trustees for the support for the MOUs and incentive pay that we negotiated. It's a real demonstration of how much you support the work that was done here by folks who are here every single day and who are here every single day. So thank you very much. This Monday, September 13th, we expect that Helena Yarso, who is a counselor in our CalWorks program, will have her appointment to the City of Pasadena's Human Services Commission approved by this Pasadena City Council. Ms. Yarso takes the place of Professor James Aragon, who served on that body since 2015. And I want to thank them for their service. It's great. They're great representatives of Pasadena City College. Again, tomorrow at noon, we're going to be remembering the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. There will be a ceremony at the flagpole by the mirror pools facing Colorado Boulevard. So if any of you are able to join us, please do. And I just want to report out, I had a wonderful lunch today with Superintendent Brian McDonald from Pasadena Unified, and we talked about all kinds of great things about our PCC Northwest, extending that lease, and a few other things. So it was a really productive conversation, and I made sure he knew that we will be doing an event probably in November or December to bring all the superintendents together and principals, and because I know that's really important to the board. So with that, that is my report.
Excellent report. We like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, let's see, do we have our associated students here?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I also would like to thank, we'll begin by thanking all faculty and staff who have been on campus, as well as administration. We appreciate it very much as an organization, and we recognize that a lot of our peers also require that in order to be successful. Aside from that, I would like to just report that we've been extremely occupied with outreach on campus, the whole board. We've had some events, aside from Welcome Week. We've had a sustainability movie night. We've had a COVID vaccinations Q&A with some staff and faculty from campus, and I believe as well students. Also, tomorrow we'll be having our club brush on campus in the quad. And aside from that, I also want to kind of just express that we are very confused at the moment with some of the, we believe, leniencies that some of these MOUs may be creating. We just have one request, is that we are considered and that we are sought out for any feedback with some of these decisions, because they highly impact our students. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a report from as a student trustee, or is that the same? Do you have anything else you want to say?
I apologize. Okay, yes, I do. So I just want to, sorry, I'm pulling this up. So I just want to report that I also attended the Budget and Audit Committee meeting last Monday, I believe it was, with the proposed budget that was presented today. Thanks again to Candace and Jesse for such great information and beautiful presentations. Also was able to review the Board of Trustees meeting agenda along with Dr. Minja Jonas one-on-one, where she answered a lot of my questions that I had regarding the agenda items we'd be covering tonight. Also want to report that we will be having a new student trustee, hopefully by the end of the month, if everything goes well with the timeline, and we look forward to having the student appointed next month. And that is it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have Management Association here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm going to keep my camera off because I'm on an unstable source right now. So I'm Rebecca Cobb again, this year's president of the Management Association. I just want to quickly give kudos to Tamika Alexander and her team for leading us to be the #1 in transfer again and recognition once again. I know she has an incredibly small team, and I know it's not solely them, but they do really awesome work every year to get us these recognitions, and I just want to give kudos to her. Managers worked really hard to create a welcoming environment for students at First Week of School. There was a lot of troubleshooting that happened that week, and just want to recognize the managers at all levels and on all areas for really being patient with students, taking time with students, and to help resolve issues and some of the confusions that happen, as well as staffing the wet huts, interacting with students in the quad, etc. Also, the MA is working on our internal organization structure and documents, as some of those have not been addressed in 10 years or more. So that's a big project for us right this year. And we've had some really great meetings with executive leadership on various policy procedures and just improving our mutual collegiality and working relationships so that we walk and talk as one leadership team and not as separate leadership teams. So that's really exciting. We've had really, really great discussions lately. So that's really promising. And one last thing, the Management Association Board sent goodies to all the members of the leadership team, just to recognize their hard work and dedication to our students in the college, particularly during the last 2 weeks in August. So that was really appreciated by folks. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Cobb. Okay, next is the Academic Senate.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to publicly thank and voice our appreciation for the classified staff at Pasadena City College. We see your dedication and service to the campus and want to acknowledge your hard work and dedication during this unprecedented time in our college's history. So blessings to you all. The Academic Senate is back in session with a bang. Our meeting was very productive. We approved the creation of the Academic Senate Subcommittee on Social Justice, which the faculty are very enthusiastic about. We are currently taking part in a 3-part retreat focusing on our Senate goals, norms, and action plans for the year. One part that the faculty is particularly excited about will be happening on Monday, the 13th. And the Senate will be hosting our guest speaker, former Chancellor, President Emeritus, and educator, Dr. Regina Stanback-Stroud. She will be helping the Senate focus on how to move forward towards our goal of social justice, liberatory education, and anti-racism. And that is all that I have tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Classified Senate.
Hi, good evening, trustees. The Classified Senate has nothing to report. However, we would like to recognize our classified community and them for their dedication to our students and faculty during the first few weeks of the fall semester and for their resilience during these ever-changing times. And thank you, Gina, Dr. Lopez, also for stating your support of classified.
Thank you. Now we'll turn towards the trustees. We'll start with trustee. Let's see, who do I see? I see no one. Trustee Waugh, where are you?
Okay, I really don't have anything other than to remind you all to register for the September 23rd town hall. And Mary will be sending out the flyer, but the league will be sending out the registration link tomorrow. So I hope you will all register.
You said September what?
23rd, third Thursday.
I'll make a note.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Brand.
Why can't I see anyone? Where's Trustee Osterlin? There he is.
I'm here and ready. Nothing to report other than I hope to see everybody at the 9/11 Memorial tomorrow at the Muir Ponds out in front of PCC, remembering the 20th anniversary of when our country was attacked by terrorists. 10 years ago, I was part of a group and was at a ceremony where we commemorated and named New York Drive in Pasadena, commemorating that event. And I'm glad to see that we're finally out of that conflict, even though we got out in a very messy and unsatisfactory way. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I just, as COVID continues, none of us thought it was going to last this long. And as it started to die down, we didn't know it was going to kick back up again. I just want to extend my personal thanks to all of our faculty and staff and administration for continuing to carry on in very trying and difficult times. And on a personal note, we've all been hit with family or friends or neighbors or relatives that have been taken down by COVID, and none more so than our very own Dr. Olivo. And I just wanted to extend my personal condolences to you and your family for what your family has been through during these very tough times. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Silver.
Yes, I'm a member of Pasadena Sister Cities, and we have 6 relationships with cities in 6 different countries. And our very newest relationship is with an area in Dakar, which is the capital of Senegal. And the way we split it up is everybody chooses to be on a committee, and they kind of run the relationship with that city and country. So our Senegal committee has been doing some awesome Zoom discussions on topics that intersect with the Black experience in America. And I also want to thank Trustee Brown, President Brown, for disseminating the flyer to at least the trustees. I don't know if there's a way to get it out to others, but tomorrow at 6:30, the topic that the Senegal Committee has chosen and found a speaker on is getting the best academic bang for your buck, leveraging your resources within the California Community College Promise Program, pathway through an African American lens. And I think it's free, and it would be wonderful for students as well as any adults and faculty to attend. Is there a way I can give the flyer to somebody who can make it available? Okay.
Yes. Send it to me.
Okay. So
Yes.
it is tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Tammy. You put that out real good. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And thank you.
Okay, is that your only report? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I'll see you tomorrow night. I'm Trustee Martin.
Thank you. I have no report, but I do want to thank our opening speaker who spoke on 9/11, whose comments I found extremely poignant and moving, and brought back a host of emotions and memories and reminders, and I really appreciated those comments.
Okay, Trustee Chinlaw.
Thank you, Chair Brown. I have 3 events that I'd like to share with everybody that's coming up. September 15th, I'll be hosting a back to school conversation with State Senator Anthony Portantino. That will be from 4 to 5. And please register. I believe I can give Alex and his team, well, they did the flyer, so they'll be sending it out. And thank you to Gilbert Rivera for putting that flyer together. And it will be co-hosted by local school board members from La Cañada, Pasadena Unified School District, and also San Marino School District. So there will be 10 local school board members having that conversation along with parents and students. So please join us with Senator Portantino, September 15th. And then on September 16th, I will be continuing my coffee and tea. And I've really have gotten really great feedback and information from those sessions. And that will be from 7 to 8 p.m. on September 16th. And on September 20th, the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association will be having State Senator Connie Leva as a speaker. And as you may know, she is the chair of the State Education Committee. And there were some discussions about the independent study that's the issue that's come up. So LACSTA will be hosting her at the September 20th meeting. So I hope that the trustees will be able to attend the LACSTA meeting, as well as the discussion with Senator Portantino on the 15th. Thank you.
Okay, I think those are all the reports. I was happy to attend. I think it was Trustee Waugh and myself, and I think Trustee Fellow. We were able to join Dr. Bell on his farewell luncheon. And my God, that was really nice to be able to be in a room with people. It was quite different. It was good to just, see my colleagues and to say goodbye to him. They had a very nice get together for him, and I thought he appreciated that very much.
Yes, I think he did. And it was also kind of nice and weird at the same time because it had been so long since we had all been together. So it was great. And I think he really appreciated it.
I really enjoyed that. So
Yeah.
I think the next on the agenda is proposed future board business meeting dates. Any changes?
No, the only thing that's in there is the addition of your board retreat, which is coming up on Monday, September 27th.
27th, that's correct.
From 2 to 4. I'm sorry, 2 to 6, pardon me.
Okay, so we got that. And proposed future agenda items, do we have any? Anyone?
Does anyone have anything to add?
Okay, so as we adjourn today of our meeting, first I'd like to thank you all. We had a very good meeting. I really enjoyed and learned a lot from the presentation from Candace, and we had very good conversation. I would like us to adjourn this time in the memory of Miss Delano Robinson, the widow of Mac Robinson, who passed away sometime, maybe a couple weeks ago. And I think that is all for tonight. It's still a good time. It's just about 7:15, and you guys were awesome, and have a great rest of the night.
Thank you, you too. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Go on, take care.